Hi everyone and happy Monday. My name is Olivia and I'm so glad that you're here on my channel. If you're seeing this video, it probably is because you are not valuing yourself the way that you should. And I want to share with you why you should be seeing yourself in a completely different light. And I pray that my words today bring revelation to your heart, that they awaken your heart to the truth. I know it's not by my might or power, but by the Spirit of God that He brings revelation that sets us free. He says in His word that the truth will set us free. So I want to share with you what truth He has been revealing to me this week, for me, for my friends, and now also for you guys listening. And this is exactly why you should value yourself differently and why you're probably undervaluing just how valuable you are. You are not seeing what God is seeing. And this is what I feel led to share with you. So in Jeremiah chapter 1, when God calls the prophet Jeremiah, this is what He says to him. He says in verse 4, "Now the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations." Now, of course, God was speaking to Jeremiah, and God was selecting Jeremiah and basically saying, I had this plan all along, and now this is what your role is to be. But this doesn't just apply to Jeremiah. This applies to every single one of us. Of course, we may not be called a prophet like Jeremiah was, but nonetheless, before God formed us, before God formed you in your mother's womb, He knew you. He already knew you. He knew you would exist. He had you in His mind's eye to exist here on this earth. It was His plan and His choice. And it says, "And before you were born, I consecrated you." So God already had a plan in mind for why you would exist and what you would do. He already had it all mapped out. We can see that in Psalm 139 as well. And in this case, the last part of that verse says, "I appointed you a prophet to the nations." So of course that was Jeremiah's call. But for you, it's so easy to just think that our parents conceived us. Our parents chose to have a child or not, but either way, we were conceived. And that's why you're existing. That's why you're here on this planet. And that's the amount of value you can place on yourself or whatever other people say about you and how they affirm you. But I just want to give you a different perspective, God's perspective, that before you were conceived by your parents, before your parents even thought about having you, God said, I choose this one to be born. I choose to create this son, this daughter, and this is what their life will be like, and this is what they will do for me. That was what He had in mind all along. And He saw you as lovely and good. He saw your human frailty as well, your sin, your failings, your missteps. He saw it all in His mind's eye before you were ever conceived or chosen by someone else, or before you could even choose you. God's hand selected you and said, you are going to exist on this earth because you are valuable and because I have a plan for you. And sometimes when we think about God's plan, we put way too much weight and we place our value in what we do for God. So we get so tied up in trying to make something of ourselves in this life that we forget what the true plan is, which is to just be in a love relationship with God. He created you to know Him, to love Him, and to serve Him. And when He sent Jesus to die on the cross and rise again, to be risen again, He did that so that your relationship with Him could be restored, so that you would have no separation from the Father, that you would have complete and total access to Him, and that all of your sin and shame would be covered and accounted for. That was what He did. So when He was thinking about you, before you were in your mother's womb, when He had you in His mind's eye for existence, He factored in everything. He factored in all you would ever do. He factored in every struggle. He factored in every doubt, every concern. He factored it all in. But it's all worth it to Him because He loves you. That is how valuable you are in His mind, in His sight. You are valuable enough for him to breathe you into existence, to say, this one will exist and will be mine and will know me and love me. You are so valuable that he wanted you to be here on this planet and to know him. And if you are watching this video, you are alive today with breath in your lungs because that is still the truth. You still have incredible value and incredible purpose in God's mind. And when you feel like you're lacking in value or purpose, it's because somewhere along the way, your value has been misplaced. Your identity has been misplaced in something you can do or someone you can become. But the reality is, when God chose to create you and form you, just like he did Jeremiah, he had the perfect image of you in his mind's eye, the image of you that would be completely covered by the blood of his son, Jesus, meaning he would see you as his perfect son, his perfect daughter. And as long as you believe in what he's done for you, that's the only requirement. And the fruit of your life flows from knowing this truth, how valuable you are, how precious you are to God, and what he's done for that to be so. Because if Jesus didn't die for you, for me, then we would still be separated from God because of our sin. We would still have this barrier between us and God, and he would not see us as this pure and lovely bride. But because of the blood, the sacrifice of Jesus, he sees you as lovely, as good, as pure, as set apart. Like, he sees you way differently than you see you. So when you're questioning your identity, when you're questioning your value and your worth, just remember, God created you. He breathed you into existence. He said, this one will live, and I have a purpose and a life set out for this person. And every day that you wake up, that is still true. And no one else, not even yourself, can give you that value, can give you that identity. Only God can. It's God breathed and God designed. Not even your parents, when they decided to have you, could have created that value for you or that identity. They don't have that kind of power. But God created you to be in the image and the likeness of his son. And so with that in mind, he sees the perfect version of you, and he calls you worthy. He calls you valuable. He calls you set apart, no matter what you feel, what you've done. And so I just want to remind you, like, it was God's plan all along for you to be alive. It was God's plan all along for you to be here, walking the earth. No one else could make that so. And with that in mind, no one else can breathe identity into the deepest part of you. No one else can give you that sense of worth except God. And when we behold him, we see the true identity that we have in him. When we behold him, we see the value that we have, because he deemed us so valuable that he created us. He didn't need to create the world. He didn't need to create people. He didn't need to create a new society after the flood. He didn't need to do any of that. But because he places so much value on us and having relationship with us, he did that. And you are here, you're alive, you're breathing, because he sees you. He singles you out, and he sees you, and he calls you valuable. And he says, what you've done is less important than you think. And what you're doing for me is less important. All he desires is that you receive this truth, that you are his son, you are his daughter, you are valuable, you are beloved, and nothing you have ever done or could ever do could change that truth. Nothing that you could ever do could change that truth and that reality. It was never about what you could do. It was never about your performance. It was never about maintaining this perfect walk. It was never about that. It's always been about believing. It's always been about having faith in Jesus and what he has done, because we can never measure up. We can never measure up to God's standard. We can never clean ourselves up. Even if we try in all of our strength and all of our might to live the perfect, quote unquote, Christian life, it would never measure up. But God never expected us to measure up. but to believe in what he's done. And when we believe, we actually become more and more like him. We're purified, we're sanctified. His love, his kindness draws us to repentance. And through that, we are changed. We are changed to become more holy and more lovely. It's called sanctification. But that's not what our value and our identity lies in. Our value, and your identity lies in what Jesus has done. His sacrifice, his resurrection, that is where your value lies. And now that is how God sees you, through that lens of what Jesus has done. And he will always see you through that lens. And all he expects of you is to trust him and to believe that that is real. That is true. That is the core. That is all there is to it, that Jesus made a way, and what we need to do is just believe, and that is where true identity and worth and value is found. So just like Jeremiah, God formed you in your mother's womb, and he knew you before that happened. Before you were born, he set you apart. And he called you to something great. First and foremost, to be with him and to know him and to experience his love and forgiveness and mercy and kindness, and to be washed clean and to be renewed day after day. He created you first and foremost for encounter with him daily. And then from that, we all share that love with others, and we represent him to the world, to the broken world around us. So I hope you are encouraged by this. I pray that it sinks in, that it's more than just words on paper, but it is a living, breathing truth and reality that is meant to be experienced on the inside at the deepest part of your being. So if you're questioning your worth, if you're questioning your value, just know God sees you much, much differently, and I believe it for you, and I love you. And please comment how I can be praying below, and we will chat next time. See you guys later.